Well, the CIA worked to hide the origins of COVID. This is an allegation from two investigative bodies in Congress. It's not conspiracy, folks. Now, we maybe don't think that that sounds so out of bounds anymore because we've seen so much information proving that Dr. Fauci and his colleagues, who are WHO scientists, have also manipulated the studies about the core of COVID origin, saying, just say it didn't come from a lab. Make that unlikely. Say that it's zoonotic is what they call it, that it came from some type of animal. We know that happened, right? Now, this all comes, this revelation about the CDC or the CIA. I'm going to get my acronyms, my initialisms messed up. This comes as the CDC voted to recommend the new COVID vaccine to all persons over 6 months of age. That means that the federal government will pay for this once again. So these two things can't be related. We're going to follow the investigation and follow the money because the money seems to show us the narrative of COVID, and we can't stop it from happening again if we don't know about it, right? So first to the CIA and the CDC, and then to the CDC. So the Select Subcommittee on the Coronavirus Pandemic and the Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, that's the House Committee and the Senate Committee, released a statement on Tuesday saying that the CIA hid the origins of COVID. Here's specifically what it says. It says that they had a credible high-level CIA whistleblower who came to them and said that 7 members of the CIA were assigned to a task force to analyze the COVID-19 origins. 6 of them said that the virus likely came from a lab. Then the CIA, now notice the word here, allegedly offered financial incentives to these 6 investigators who then changed their mind and change their conclusion in favor of zoonotic origin. Now, the letter here, it says allegedly offered, but in the letter from Chairman Brad Wenstrup and Mike Turner to the CIA, it said that money was given, not offered. So I'm going to conclude here that that money went out, that that's a sunk cost, that it was paid by American taxpayers to scientists to change their conclusion, because that's the linchpin. They thought that it was from a lab, they received some money, and all of a sudden they thought that it was zoonotic. Okay, whose money? You and me, if you are an American taxpayer. Now, keep in mind, we've heard from several government organizations now saying that COVID did likely come from a lab. The Pentagon doctors said that that was plausible in 2020. The FBI said that last year. The Department of Energy said so last year. The CIA has been a holdout. Now it seems they had a reason to say that it did not come from a lab because they paid some scientists for that conclusion, is what this whistleblower is saying. And now Congress says it seems likely that that's true. Why would they do that? Who asked them to do that?
Right. What is the reason behind it? I mean, we can use our conspiratorial minds here to figure out why would the CIA use money that they say was given, not bribes, but that's exactly what it was for, right? It was a bribe to get these scientists to change their story, to say that, I mean, it could be that the United States, absolutely has this love relationship with China, right?
Well, the reason that we've sort of been following up is because the National Institute of Health was funding gain of function in Wuhan.
Right.
And that seems to be something that we did not want to be known. That's why we know that Fauci and the NIH worked with the authors of the Nature paper to conclude that it was not likely to have come from a lab. We know that.
They were working, collaborating on this.
We've seen that from these very committees.
So maybe we want to cover our trail here.
But why would the CIA do that? At the behest of who? Who were they protecting here?
Who came to them? It wasn't just something they cooked up out of thin air, right?
Right.
And my question is, what's the chain of command? Like, who actually is in control of the CIA? Like, are they just their own thing that does their own thing whenever they want? Or like, there has to be a chain of command. So that had to go up how far?
You would think that the director of the CIA, right, Bill Burns, you would think that he's a Biden appointee, and that, he serves at the pleasure of the president, right? So as a new president comes in, they make the decision, they're going to put a new person in the head of the FBI, the new person at the head of the CIA, or they're going to continue with the person who was under the past administration, but they serve at the pleasure of the president, and they can be fired at any time. But there is absolutely a deep state that's totally out of control of the director of the CIA. Do you think that everyone at the CIA listens to him? There's absolutely an apparatus that's at work where they're secretly funding and pushing through all sorts of black ops projects that the director has no idea about.
Right. So the question here that we ask often is the legal concept of cui bono, right? Who benefits from this? From using American taxpayer money to pay scientists to change their mind. It's not us, the taxpayers. We don't benefit from manipulation of science ever. We don't benefit from our money being used that way. So who then benefits? It's somebody's reputation being saved. Now, the Senate committee is asking to interview the CIA COO, Andrew Makridis, and they're asking him to appear voluntarily before Congress on September 26th. So he would know the money trail. If these scientists were paid some kind of bonus, that would maybe be in a paper trail. They want to know, right? They're also asking for all communication, and they say if they don't get it, all about COVID from the CIA, and if they don't get it, they're saying they're ready to subpoena, and they have the power to do that. So this is interesting. So we've seen now the FBI subpoenaed by this Congress. These committees, now we might see the CIA pulled in next. So this is just literally one way to follow the money. Who was paid to lie to us?
Yeah.
We paid our own officials to tell us lies. I don't like that. I don't find that to be a part of my social contract with the government, and I hate it. Let me know what you think.
I would love to know also who else was getting money from the CIA. Who else was Dr. Fauci being paid? I mean, he was already getting a huge government salary, but was he being paid under the table? Was he being told what to say and directed in certain ways? What media organizations or people that were appearing on CNBC or other places on a regular basis? Like, was the CIA making sure that they were receiving money, not directly from the CIA, but through proxy organizations like USAID and these other sort of proxy organizations that we know are have been funding money into gain of function research, specifically in Ukraine. So all of these dirty sons of bitches. It'd be really interesting to see where this money, will they be forthcoming? Will they actually come forward and actually tell us that here's the documents, here's where the money went? Do you really think the CIA is going to go before Congress?
Specifically, then they'll also ruin 6 scientists' lives too, because this whistleblower said there were 7 scientists. 6 of them changed their mind after they were given money. 1 of them did not. Like the Dentine commercial, right? And so 6 scientists will have their names dragged through the mud as scientists who are willing to sell their science.
I would love to know the one scientist that had the scruples to say, no, I'm not going to alter my science or my belief system in order to take money from the CIA.
I think we will know that.
They probably still would have had to give him money, though, to not say anything. Or what they do, have him remove his science badge?
Let's see if
he didn't
that
take money. I mean, if he's saying if he's standing by his statements on this, or what his findings are, that it clearly came from a lab.
And also, didn't you say that did you say the COO of the CIA, as in they have a corporate structure? So won't we see all this in their tax returns?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
You would think.
Yeah. Can you explain? I noticed here in column 5 that there's $20 billion missing. Can you explain where that money went? Oh, okay. You can't. Yeah. Does that get funneled to some Ukrainian biolab?
I don't recall. I'll have somebody look into that, and we'll get back to you.
Could you imagine?
No.
Could you imagine if your taxes were answered that way? I just don't recall. There's $20 billion that we can't account for, or $100 billion.
So I'm going through this wording of the statement, and it does seem to suggest that the 7th person refused the money and refused to change.
Good for her, him, whatever.
Good for that person.
They.
We don't know who they were. So, okay, that's one way to follow the money. Now let's follow the money for COVID vaccines. This is a currently unfolding story because this week the CDC voted to recommend the new COVID vaccine to all persons over 6 months of age. This means that the federal government will once again pay Big Pharma for these vaccines. Big Pharma will turn around and pay the U.S. government because they are licensing pieces of it from the NIH. We've followed that trail before. So this is the U.S. government basically laundering money through COVID vaccines. You take it, they launder money. Again, the chain goes, the federal government will pay Big Pharma. Big Pharma pays the federal government back for licensing those technologies. It's all laundered through your bicep, basically. Okay, so here's their announcement of this from the CDC. This comes just on the heels of the FDA making this recommendation. So they came in and said, yep, us too, rubber stamp. Now, again, I feel like I'm repeating myself, but it bears repeating that this is odd, given that the CDC admits that vaccination is a risk factor for contracting the new variant of COVID. We showed you this in late August when they said so, saying BA.2.86 may be more capable of causing infection to people who have received COVID vaccines. So take that if you want, but you're going to get COVID. It's also odd, this recommendation, given that young people don't seem to show any increased risk for severe COVID. Also odd because these vaccines did not go through clinical trials at all. In fact, Pfizer, the FDA, the CDC, and Moderna all say that they use studies from the first two COVID vaccines to say that this one is totally fine. They did not test this one on its own. They felt like they had no need. Also odd because Pfizer and Moderna both acknowledge in the new vaccine fact sheet that goes with these new vaccines that the COVID vaccine has serious adverse events and that the possible side effects are still being studied. Also odd because, again, no clinical trials. And the FDA even admitted that in their studies, which were not trials, but studies, the only thing they can do is suggest that the COVID vaccine works to neutralize the virus. We showed you this on Monday. The studies suggest that the vaccines are good. They don't have any kind of percentage of how often it prevents infection or serious COVID. No more percentages that we got in late 2019, late 2020, early 21, when the vaccines were being rolled out, when we had like Pfizer is 80%, AstraZeneca is high 60s. Remember that? No, that's gone because they can't hold and we know now that was all BS. So why this blanket recommendation of the vaccine for an entire population, regardless of medical history? At least in the UK, the government is only recommending the new vaccines for specific at-risk populations. In Canada, health officials approved only the Moderna vaccine and not the Pfizer one. Now, why would they do that, do you think? Could it be, I don't know, because Moderna has a huge factory that they just built in Canada late last year.
Cui bono?
Yes, cui bono. Very
Cui bono.
good. Yes, very good. Here is Prime Minister Trudeau at the opening of said factory last year, looking really excited about it.
And looking real, he's like, I got my work boots on, my brand new work boots that have never worked a day in their life. They're completely brand new and shiny.
You definitely need steel-toed boots when working in a bio lab for sure.
Right.
Yes.
When standing on gravel for a photo shoot, you need steel-toed boots that are brand new that your staff just handed you 5 minutes before the photo shoot.
Yeah, I'm surprised there's not a matching hard hat.
That's like the guys that show up on a construction site that you get a lot of flack if you show up on a construction site and all of your tools are new, your shoes are new. It's like, oh, you've never worked, have you?
Yeah. You got no paint on your pants.
Yeah.
Exactly right. No splattering. Okay, so let's sum up. The CDC has approved this now without data supporting that it's an emergency or that we need it, all of us, or that it's even safe. The American taxpayers will pay for this money laundering, again, through their upper arms. Health Canada, which has a big partner in Moderna, will only pay Moderna. And again, the taxpayers paid to hide all of this through the CIA because we're not allowed to know where it came from. We're just supposed to keep paying for it and rolling up our sleeves. Let us know what you think of this in the chat below.
Thank you so much for watching this segment here at Redacted. We are live every day at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, trying to share the stories that the mainstream media will not cover. You should also come over and join our community of Redacted Rebels over at redacted.inc. That's our private locals community where we can share exclusive content that we simply cannot share here on YouTube. Come over and join the rebellion together right now by going to redacted.inc. We'll see you next time.